Have you ever noticed that the deeper you dive into your thoughts, the more isolated you seem to become? It's like the more you understand, the less people want to listen. This isn't just in your head. Society has always had a complicated relationship with deep thinkers. It's not that these thinkers are wrong. It's that they see things others would rather ignore. History is full of examples: Socrates, Galileo, Tesla, brilliant minds who were ridiculed, silenced, or dismissed. Their intelligence wasn't the problem. The problem was that their insights made people uncomfortable. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, known for his brutal honesty, believed intelligence itself could be a cursor force that isolates those who see the world too clearly. But why does this happen? Why does society resist those who think differently? The answer lies deep within human psychology. Think about it. When you meet someone physically strong, you don't feel weak, you admire their strength. When you encounter someone wealthy, you might envy them, but you don't feel personally attacked. However, when you meet someone intellectually superior, something different happens. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. A deep thinker doesn't just introduce new ideas, they hold up a mirror to the limitations of those around them, and people don't take that lightly. Even if the deep thinker says nothing, their mere presence can make others feel inadequate. But why does intelligence provoke such discomfort more than any other kind of superiority? To understand this, consider how our minds process different forms of superiority. Physical strength or wealth are external traits. We recognize them, but they don't usually challenge how we see ourselves at a core level. Intelligence, on the other hand, is tied directly to identity. We define ourselves by our thoughts, beliefs, and understanding of the world. When someone questions what we take for granted, it can feel like a personal attack on who we are. Instead of admiration, many people subconsciously resist intelligence, not because the deep thinker is arrogant, but because their presence forces others to confront their own limitations. This is why, throughout history, deep thinkers have often been pushed to society's edges. Their insights don't just challenge ideas, they challenge egos, and human beings, by nature, will do almost anything to protect their egos from discomfort. Think back to your own experiences. Have you ever tried to bring up a complex idea in casual conversation, only to be met with blank stares or awkward silence? Have you noticed how quickly people change the subject when discussions get too deep? This isn't a coincidence, it's a defense mechanism. When people face a deep thinker, their minds go into self-preservation mode. Instead of curiosity, they resist. Instead of engagement, they dismiss. This is why intellectuals, philosophers, and visionaries often find themselves isolated, not because they want to be, but because society pushes them away. Interestingly, studies show that confidence is often valued more than intelligence in social settings. People naturally gravitate toward those who project certainty, even if their ideas are shallow. That's why charismatic but simplistic thinkers often gain more influence than deep thinkers who speak with nuance. History is full of examples. Populist leaders, motivational speakers, viral influencers, they thrive by telling people what they want to hear, rather than challenging them to think critically. Meanwhile, those who question widely accepted beliefs struggle to find a broad audience. This is the paradox of intelligence. The more someone seeks truth, the more disconnected they become from the majority. The mirror effect doesn't just reflect society's limitations, it reveals why society resists change in the first place. But is there scientific proof that people actually fear intelligence? Modern neuroscience says yes. Studies show that when people feel intellectually inferior, their amygdala, the brain's fear and threat detector, activates strongly. In simple terms, deep thinking triggers a primal survival response, similar to facing physical danger. Why does intelligence activate the same fear circuits as a physical threat? It comes down to evolution. For most of human history, survival depended not on being the smartest person in the room, but on being accepted by the group. Our ancestors thrived in tribes where social harmony meant safety. Being rejected could mean death, as isolation made one vulnerable. That's why human brains are wired to prioritize social acceptance over intellectual pursuit. When a highly intelligent person enters a social setting, they unknowingly disrupt the tribal balance. Their presence challenges existing ideas, social norms, and group dynamics. This triggers the brain's defense mechanisms, as if facing a potential enemy rather than just a thinker. This explains why many deep thinkers feel isolated, not because they lack social skills, but because their intelligence makes them stand out in a world that values fitting in over standing out. A 2021 study at Stanford University revealed something even more surprising. The rejection of deep thinkers depends on context. When people interact with an intellectual one-on-one, they feel less threatened. But in group settings, the threat response spikes dramatically. Why? Because social status becomes more important in groups. People don't just react to intelligence itself, they react to how others perceive them in comparison. If someone feels outshined by a deep thinker, they instinctively try to undermine or exclude them to protect their social standing. This explains why deep thinkers often find genuine conversations in private but struggle in larger social environments. Psychologists also point to cognitive biases that fuel resistance to intelligence. The Dunning-Kruger effect means people with low ability often overestimate their intelligence, while highly intelligent people tend to doubt themselves. This creates friction, as those who know little dismiss deeper thinkers. The status quo bias means the brain prefers familiar ideas over new, complex truths. Intelligence often introduces disruptive thoughts, which make people uncomfortable. The backfire effect means, when confronted with information that contradicts their beliefs, people don't change their minds, they double down. In today's digital age, social media amplifies this rejection of intelligence. Algorithms prioritize engagement over depth, so controversial, emotionally charged content spreads faster than thoughtful arguments. Simple, catchy, and often misleading sound bites outperform nuanced discussions. The more intellectual someone is, the harder it is to compress deep ideas into viral-friendly content. As a result, society increasingly favors entertainment over enlightenment, making it even tougher for deep thinkers to find acceptance. So, what does this mean for deep thinkers? The rejection of intelligence isn't just social, it's biological, psychological, and cultural. It's built into human nature, reinforced by group dynamics, and magnified by technology. This doesn't mean deep thinkers should stop sharing their ideas, but it does mean understanding the forces working against them is crucial. If society resists intelligence, what does it actually embrace? The answer is comfort a world where predictability wins over truth. Arthur Schopenhauer argued that intelligence is not a gift but a curse. Unlike thinkers who see intelligence as a key to success, he believed the smarter you are, the harder it is to connect with society. Why Schopenhauer's philosophy centers on the concept of the will-blind, irrational force driving human behavior. Most people live controlled by the will to live, seeking pleasure, comfort, and survival above all else. But highly intelligent people develop a will to truth and insatiable desire to understand reality, even if it leads to discomfort. Regular people seek pleasure and avoid difficult truths. Deep thinkers seek truth, even if it brings pain and isolation. This creates a fundamental disconnect, where most find meaning in relationships, entertainment, and routine pleasures. Deep thinkers often feel disillusioned, seeing these as distractions from deeper existential questions. Schopenhauer believed the more you understand human nature, the harder it is to relate to others. You see through lies and deception. Most social interactions involve small talk, status games, and polite dishonesty. Deep thinkers, who value truth over appearance, struggle to participate in this. They crave depth, but society favors simplicity. Most people prefer surface-level conversations, while deep thinkers want meaningful discussions. This makes everyday interactions feel boring or alienating. They recognize the futility of human desires. Schopenhauer saw desire and ambition as illusions. Most chase money, power, and relationships, but deep thinkers question the purpose of these pursuits. This can make them appear distant or indifferent to what excites the majority. That's why intelligent people often feel misunderstood, alienated, or resented. Their presence forces others to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. Most prefer to avoid. Schopenhauer compared intelligence to a heightened awareness, a blessing that feels like a curse. He wrote, "A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. The more you understand, the less you can ignore. The more aware you are of the world's flaws, the harder it is to find happiness in it. The more you think deeply, the lonelier you become." For Schopenhauer, happiness and intelligence were inversely related. He believed ignorance, not wisdom, was the true key to happiness. This is why deep thinkers throughout history like Nietzsche, Pascal, Kafka have struggled with depression, existential crises, and social isolation. But Schopenhauer didn't just diagnose the problem, he offered solutions. Embrace solitude. He saw solitude not as punishment, but as a privilege. Deep thinkers should use alone time for intellectual and creative pursuits. Rather than seeking validation, find like-minded individuals. Instead of trying to fit into mainstream society, seek those who think like you through books, philosophy, or intellectual circles. Engage with the world wisely. Don't blindly share deep insights with those unready for them. Observe society, learn its patterns, and choose your words carefully. Schopenhauer's teachings guide modern deep thinkers struggling with social rejection. While intelligence may lead to loneliness, it also grants freedom, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of life. In the end, intelligence is a double-edged sword, a source of both power and pain. It allows you to see reality clearly, but distances you from those who prefer illusions. So if you've ever felt alone in your thoughts, know this: you're not broken. You're simply seeing the world as it really is. Continuing from where we left off, it's important to recognize that the experience of deep thinkers goes beyond just social rejection or feeling misunderstood. Deep thinking itself can have profound effects on mental and emotional well-being. One key challenge is that deep thinkers often feel emotionally drained. Their minds are constantly processing complex ideas, emotions, and existential questions. This heightened mental activity can sap energy and make social interactions exhausting. Because they tend to be sensitive and considerate, deep thinkers often absorb the emotions of others, which adds to their emotional burden. Without clear boundaries, this can lead to burnout. Another struggle is the feeling of being misunderstood. Despite their sensitivity and thoughtfulness, deep thinkers frequently find that others don't grasp where they're coming from. This lack of understanding can lead to frustration and isolation. Studies show that feeling misunderstood is linked to increased stress and lower life satisfaction, which can compound the loneliness many deep thinkers face. Self-doubt also plays a significant role. Deep thinkers tend to question not only the world but themselves as well. This constant self-questioning can spiral into negative thinking patterns, making it difficult to balance optimism with doubt. The result, a vulnerability to anxiety and despair that many deep thinkers know all too well. Their minds are often so active that shutting off their thoughts becomes a real challenge. This relentless mental activity can interfere with sleep and make it hard to live in the present moment. Instead of enjoying life's simple pleasures, deep thinkers may find themselves trapped in cycles of rumination and existential worry. This intense mental engagement is linked to how the brain functions. Deep thinking activates the prefrontal cortex, which governs logical reasoning and self-control. However, this activation can suppress emotional centers, reducing creativity, spontaneity, and empathy, qualities essential for enjoyable social interactions. This neurological pattern partly explains why deep thinkers, especially in analytical fields like mathematics or physics, are often perceived as less sociable or outgoing. Interestingly, some deep thinkers have found temporary relief through activities that reduce prefrontal cortex activity, such as listening to loud music, dancing, or even sleep deprivation. These experiences can boost emotional expression and creativity by loosening rigid cognitive control. Of course, these are not sustainable long-term solutions, but they highlight the neurological balance deep thinkers must navigate. Psychologically, the resistance deep thinkers face also stems from evolutionary mechanisms. As we discussed earlier, the brain's amygdala reacts to intellectual superiority as a threat, activating fear and defense responses. This primal reaction is rooted in our ancestors' need for social cohesion and acceptance for survival. Being excluded from the group was a matter of life and death, so our brains are wired to prioritize fitting in over intellectual challenge. This threat response is context-dependent. In one-on-one interactions, people may feel less threatened by intelligence, but in group settings, where social hierarchies matter more, the perceived threat spikes. People instinctively try to protect their social standing by dismissing or undermining those who outshine them intellectually. Cognitive biases further complicate this dynamic. The Dunning-Kruger effect causes those with less knowledge to overestimate their competence, leading them to reject deeper thinkers. The status quo bias makes people prefer familiar ideas over new, complex truths. and the backfire effect means that confronting someone with contradictory information often strengthens their original beliefs rather than changing them. 3. Social media and modern technology magnify these tendencies. Algorithms reward content that sparks strong emotional reactions, controversy, outrage, humor rather than thoughtful, nuanced discussions. This environment favors simple, catchy soundbites over deep intellectual engagement, making it even harder for deep thinkers to gain widespread acceptance. 3. Despite these challenges, deep thinking can be a powerful force for personal growth and societal progress. It compels us to hold ourselves accountable, to question inconsistencies, and to pursue meaningful goals beyond superficial expectations. 7. But deep thinkers must also learn to manage their energy and mental health. They need time to process and recover from intense cognitive activity, as studies show that a significant portion of people are highly sensitive to sensory and intellectual input. 8. Ultimately, deep thinkers face a unique paradox. Their greatest strength, their intellect and insight, can also be their greatest source of isolation and struggle. Understanding the psychological, neurological, and social dynamics at play can help them navigate the world more effectively. When you feel overwhelmed by your own thoughts or the reactions of others, remember that this is part of the deep thinker's journey. It's not a flaw, but a sign of your heightened awareness and sensitivity to the world's complexities. Throughout history, some of the greatest minds have been deep thinkers who challenged the status quo and reshaped the way we understand the world. These thinkers were often misunderstood or rejected in their own time, but their ideas have had lasting impacts that continue to influence us today. Take Socrates, often called the founder of Western philosophy. He didn't write down his ideas, but through his students like Plato, we know he championed critical questioning and self-examination. Socrates encouraged people to think for themselves and challenge accepted beliefs. Yet, instead of being celebrated, he was sentenced to death for corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. His crime was pushing society to reflect deeply on its values and assumptions, a threat to the established order. 3. Then there's Galileo Galilei, whose discoveries in astronomy and physics revolutionized science. Galileo supported Copernicus' heliocentric model, which placed the sun, not the earth, at the center of the universe. This directly challenged centuries of religious doctrine and power structures. The church branded him a heretic, forced him to recant, and placed him under house arrest for years. Today, Galileo is hailed as a pioneer of modern science, but during his life, his truths were dangerous and unwelcome. 5. Friedrich Nietzsche is another example. His philosophy questioned morality, religion, and the meaning of existence. Nietzsche introduced ideas like nihilism and the Mensch, concepts that unsettled traditional values and sparked existential debates. His work was initially dismissed or misunderstood, yet it profoundly influenced 20th century philosophy and culture. 3. We also see Francis Bacon, a key figure in the scientific revolution, who emphasized empirical observation and the scientific method. Bacon's insistence on questioning and testing ideas laid the groundwork for modern science. Yet his ideas were radical for his time and met with resistance from established authorities. 14. Isaac Newton, famous for his laws of motion and universal gravitation, was relentless in questioning and testing the world around him. His persistence in thinking critically transformed physics and mathematics. Newton's example teaches us the power of relentless curiosity and rigorous inquiry, even when it challenges existing knowledge. 5. In the realm of social and political thought, figures like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau challenged ideas about government, liberty, and human rights. Locke's theories on the social contract and individual rights influenced the American and French revolutions. Rousseau's ideas about equality and the corruption of society inspired major political change, though both faced opposition for their radical views. 5. More recently, Alan Turing, the father of modern computing, made groundbreaking contributions during World War II by cracking Nazi codes, saving millions of lives. Despite his genius, he was persecuted for his sexuality and died tragically young. Today, Turing is celebrated, but his story reminds us how society can reject even its greatest minds due to prejudice. 5. Women thinkers like Mary Wollstonecraft also challenged societal norms. She was an early advocate for women's rights, arguing for equality and education. Her work laid the foundation for feminist philosophy. though she faced significant criticism and marginalization in her time. 6. These thinkers share a common thread. They introduced ideas that were too advanced or unsettling for their societies to accept immediately. Their insights often threatened existing power structures, social norms, or deeply held beliefs. As a result, they were marginalized, ridiculed, or punished. Yet, their ideas became the foundation for progress and human understanding. This pattern shows that society doesn't fear intelligence itself, it fears what intelligence reveals: change, disruption, and the challenge to comfort and certainty. So, what can deep thinkers learn from these historical giants? First, understand that rejection and isolation are often part of the journey for those who push boundaries. It's not a sign of failure, but a sign that you're ahead of your time. Second, seek out communities or individuals who appreciate depth and nuance. The greatest thinkers didn't operate in isolation, they engaged with others who challenged and supported them. Third, learn to communicate complex ideas in ways that others can grasp. Einstein famously said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." Making your insights accessible increases the chance they will be heard and valued. Finally, recognize that your intellectual path is both a gift and a challenge. It offers freedom and insight, but requires resilience and strategic navigation of social dynamics. In the next part, we'll explore how modern society, especially through technology and institutions, continues to shape the experience of deep thinkers and what strategies can help them thrive today. In our fast-evolving world, deep thinking continues to be a vital, albeit often challenging, endeavor. The landscape for deep thinkers is shaped by new technologies and shifting societal priorities. While some of the struggles remain the same, new opportunities and threats emerge. Today, we see a growing focus on thinkers who can address pressing global issues. For example, Prospect Magazine's Top Thinkers for 2025 list highlights individuals whose ideas are shaping discussions around climate change, economics, geopolitics, freedom, and technology. 1. This includes those working on renewable energy, challenging economic narratives about AI, advocating for political opposition, or guiding our understanding of complex international relations. 1. The list also features experts on AI, big tech, and big pharma, exploring both the failings and potential for good in AI systems, and how tech giants can be regulated. 1. This demonstrates a societal need for deep thinkers who can navigate complex, interconnected challenges and offer innovative solutions. Similarly, the Thinkers 50 ranking identifies the most influential management thinkers globally, emphasizing those who pioneer groundbreaking ideas in leadership, organizations, and successful teaming. 2. They seek individuals who operate at the crossroads of ideation and execution, focusing on concepts that are both significant and practical. 6. Their radar class for 2025 features emerging thinkers addressing critical issues like sustainability, employee well-being, ethical leadership, and entrepreneurship. 67. This suggests a demand for deep thinkers whose ideas have tangible impact and can be put into practice to improve the world. 67. However, the modern digital environment also presents new hurdles for deep thinkers. As discussed previously, social media algorithms tend to prioritize engagement over depth, favoring content that is simple, catchy, and emotionally resonant over nuanced, thoughtful discussions. This can make it difficult for complex ideas to gain widespread traction. Despite these challenges, deep thinking remains crucial for progress. As Columbia Theological Seminary notes, deep thinking leads to deep thoughts and powerful ideas. 3. It encourages people to think, reason, and discern, which is essential for understanding the world and making informed decisions. 3. The field of philosophy itself is evolving to meet modern demands. Technophilosophy is rising, with thinkers like Nick Bostrom and Yuval Noah Harari exploring the ethical implications of AI, digital consciousness, and what it means to be human in a tech-dominated world. 5. There's also a movement to philosophy, bringing in voices from non-Western traditions to address global issues from fresh perspectives. 5. Moreover, practical philosophy for modern life is gaining traction, with thinkers reinterpreting ancient ideas like Stoicism and mindfulness to help people navigate burnout, uncertainty, and the search for meaning. 5. These trends indicate that while the traditional lone genius narrative might shift, the demand for profound thought persists. The deep thinkers of today are often those who can bridge academic rigor with real-world application, addressing contemporary dilemmas with insightful, actionable ideas. 6. They are pushing boundaries, building connections, and offering novel, inspiring, and challenging perspectives. 1. So if you are a deep thinker in this modern age, understanding this landscape is key. While society may still prioritize comfort and instant gratification, there is a clear and growing recognition of the value of deep thought in navigating complex global issues and shaping a better future. The challenge lies in finding the right platforms and communities that value and disseminate such ideas effectively, rather than relying solely on mainstream social channels that favor superficial content. As we wrap up, it's clear that deep thinkers have always faced unique challenges, both historically and in today's world. Society often resists the uncomfortable truths they reveal, preferring comfort and certainty over complexity and change. Yet, deep thinking remains essential for progress, innovation, and meaningful understanding. Looking ahead to 2025, there's a renewed spotlight on thinkers whose ideas are shaping the future. For example, Prospect magazine recently highlighted 25 thinkers who are influencing critical global issues from climate change and economics to freedom, geopolitics, and technology. These thinkers are pushing boundaries, building connections, and offering fresh, inspiring, and challenging ideas. Their work addresses urgent topics like AI ethics, renewable energy, inequality, and political opposition, showing that deep thinking is very much alive and relevant today. 1. Similarly, the Thinkers 50 ranking identifies the world's most influential management thinkers, emphasizing those who combine original ideas with practical impact. The 2025 Radar class features leaders tackling AI, sustainability, employee well-being, ethical leadership, and entrepreneurship. These thinkers operate at the intersection of ideation and execution, demonstrating that deep thought must also translate into real-world solutions to thrive in today's fast-changing environment. 267 Philosophy itself is evolving to meet modern challenges. The rise of technophilosophy brings thinkers like Nick Bostrom and Yuval Noah Harari to the forefront, exploring AI, digital consciousness, and humanity's future in a tech-dominated world. At the same time, there's a movement to de-philosophy, amplifying voices from non-Western traditions to broaden perspectives on justice, identity, and climate change. Practical philosophy is also gaining popularity, with ancient ideas like Stoicism and mindfulness being reinterpreted to help people cope with burnout and uncertainty in modern life. 5. Despite the challenges posed by social media's preference for viral, emotionally charged content over nuanced discussion, there are still platforms and communities where deep thinkers can connect, share, and influence. The key for deep thinkers today is to find or create spaces that value thoughtful dialogue and to learn how to communicate complex ideas accessibly without diluting their depth. The stories of historical figures like Socrates, Galileo, Nietzsche, Tesla, and Turing remind us that rejection and isolation are often temporary phases in the journey of deep thinkers. Their ideas, initially feared or dismissed, eventually become the foundation for human progress. So, if you've ever felt isolated for your thoughts, remember, you're part of a long tradition of thinkers who have shaped the world by daring to see beyond the surface. Society may resist deep thinking, but it ultimately depends on it. If this video resonated with you, share your experiences in the comments. Have you ever felt rejected for thinking deeply? Let's start a conversation. And if you want to explore more insights from history's greatest minds and the thinkers shaping our future, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. Thank you for watching.